Hey there, neighbors and naysayers. November 19th, 2023. Yesterday was hay day. Hay day around here is the day that we start feeding cows hay. It's a little earlier than we'd all like it to be. Actually, we started feeding the grass-fed steers a week ago. They're just ready for their first move tonight. I'll probably take a video over there too, just so you can see that. That's what I'm more proud of. This is not so proud of, but it happens, and it's what we have to do. Ethan, Levi, and Rachel are out there scouting. Ethan's got Rachel carrying a pop gun. I'm not sure what they're hunting, but so if I were the one unrolling hay here, I would be unrolling it in much the same way you would mow this field for hay. I am not, however, the one unrolling hay here. My father is. So he unrolls hay about like my grandmother used to mow grass, just here, there, and everywhere. And that's fine. I mean, he eventually gets it covered. What he's really trying to do, this is the wetter part of this field. He's trying to get this covered with hay before it gets wet this winter, so that we can then move. And I'll pan here where the cows are at, up there on that top. That doesn't really need a whole bunch of hay because they camp there every single night. We fed in this field before, so we know the way this goes, about 10 years ago. So they're always going to camp up there on that hilltop, and then they'll move down here to hay. Our real goal is, and you guys can't see the line, but where the trees end right there, coming down the fence row, a straight line on the contour, that's funny, around here to where it slopes, that's where we're going to try to concentrate most of the hay. We've already fed hay. If you watched our bale grazing videos last year, we already fed hay up on that field where he just turned around. So that's the plan here, is to continue to just feed and unroll on the wetter natured part, which is right about where those two black cows are. From there over gets wet as the winter progresses. So we'll try to get that spread out, and then we'll move over here to the more dry spots as time goes on. This is I've probably said this all before, it's a perfectly acceptable way to feed hay, this unrolling. It's gonna get muddy. We know it will. We got the pad cleaned off so we can move cows to the concrete if it gets too muddy. But as time has went on, I have got to the point where this is a necessary evil for me. This is a fertility program. It's also a way to kind of reseed these pasture fields. I called it turning mistakes into opportunities, and it costs us money, and that kind of gives some people some heartburn. But I can get this field to produce as much forage in the year after feeding hay on it as it did the year before, even if we tear it completely up, because I can plant sorghum Sudan grass. That comes at a cost, sure, but what is the opportunity cost to add new clovers, new orchard grass, new Italian ryegrass, new chicory, plantain, all those other things to this field? That is where we gain some advantage, and it's hard to quantify. Some people say I'm probably not getting anything out of it. It's probably a wash. Maybe it's costing me money. I don't know. But what I know is I can make it produce as much the first year after unrolling hay on it as it did prior to having hay on it. So like I said, it's a necessary evil. If we're going to feed hay, this is the way we'd prefer to feed it. Of course, if we had our preferences, we'd prefer it stay frozen all winter long. If it stayed frozen all winter long, I guarantee you we'd be bale grazing the whole farm. That's why we're doing the experiment on the bale grazing, to see how we like it even when it gets muddy. So, and you guys all got a pretty good picture of how that bale unroller works. If you don't know, I don't know what those bale unrollers cost these days. That one cost me about $1,600 before the pandemic, but I'm sure it's way more than that now. Some days it unrolls better than others. Like right now, that bale isn't unrolling all that better. Well, but that is a last year's bale of hay. That's not from this growing season. It's from the year previous. So we'll mix and match hay here. We know they only really eat a bale and a half of hay a day. But we feed them two, because how do you unroll a half a bale? So we mix and match. We'll bring in old hay, we'll bring in new hay, we'll bring in second crop sometimes. We'll bring some stuff that got rained on sometimes. Dad kind of can judge it from here, what they ate the day before, and then he chooses accordingly with what he feeds the next day. So this field he really loves to feed in because it's right across from the house, so he can see it in the morning. If he had his druthers, it'd always be this field and the next couple up the hill, but that's not the reality. And hopefully the reality is in another year or two we won't be feeding this much hay anyway, and we'll be doing bale grazing in among the stockpile. I will calculate how much stockpile I have, and then I'll know how many bales I have to feed in order to get through the winter, and we'll just pick fields that we don't mind being overgrazed so that we can put new clover in, and those are the fields that we'll bale graze in. That's what it looks like in the future, but we got to get through this year's bale grazing experiment for the entire winter before we want to make that decision for good. So Ethan wanted me to take a video today, and then he ran off, sitting up there scouting with his pop gun. So with that, I'll say we'll see you next time.